You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Hello, and welcome back to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. I have artist Sarah Stieber on with us today, which I'm super excited about. Welcome to our show, Sarah.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. And hopefully you all are watching the video portion on YouTube because she's got just her paintings in the back. You can see the beautiful water floor. Her outfit is always like on point and colorful and gorgeous. So if you're listening to the podcast, you definitely have to take a view as well because it's very delicious.
This is actually my work suit. So I wear it whenever I do installations or paint murals, and I forget that it's such a vibe. So when I'm walking around, I feel like sweaty and covered in paint, and I'm just like climbing on ladders, and I've just been like working all day. And I have all these people say, "I love your outfit," and I'm like, "This isn't an outfit. This is a uniform."
This is your work uniform. Well, it's fantastic.
I myself, of course.
Of course you did. And I'm sure that we'll see this. She has this beautiful chalice as well. That's just all colorful and gorgeous. So again, all the things. I'm just in love with all the things. So Sarah, what? Oh, you know what? I didn't open our space. Let me light a candle. I got too excited. I'm going to light a candle just to kind of connect us, to ground us, because obviously I'm all over. But just to connect us with that beautiful spirit of fire, which is all about creativity and connection and, all the things. So I'm going to go ahead and light this candle, and then I'm going to pull a crystal card for us just to see what we might need to know for today, what energies are around us that we... So I'm pulling from the Radiant Crystal card deck, the second edition, and we have red Mural, which is passion, balance, and strength. You can see that.
Love that.
It's root chakra, and affirmation: I find strength in my uniqueness and passions. Absolutely. The energies here display vibrant raspberry pinks. It's the rarest of the Mural family. Its unique makeup and fiery appearance offers a dynamic grand energy, balance of emotion. It reveals divine love, amplifies our true nature. I love that. Amplifies our true nature. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. That's like the mission statement behind all of my paintings. I feel very seen by my heart.
Oh my gosh. And it's the same color as your hair. That beautiful stripe in your hair. It's gorgeous. Love it. I would love to know how you got into this world of art. I'm sure it's probably just in your bones and in your genes, but I want to hear, like, what's the story? How did all this happen for you?
Yeah, I really was one of those little baby girls who just was always obsessed with drawing and painting. People are really surprised to hear that I was super shy as a kid. And I think that art was... I think I had some natural talent and then just like such a drive and passion for it from such an early age. And I think it was just such a huge part of teaching me how to express myself. I got like some really like special and unique, probably early recognition for my art. So I think that really kind of boosted my confidence and gave me sort of a platform to step into myself with. So yeah. I remember painting a rainbow on a play school easel when I was 2 years old and knowing I wanted to be an artist. But it's like one of those.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course. Painting rainbows. It's like the same content, the easel has just gotten bigger and I have grown, but like it's all basically the same. And then of course, it wasn't until I got a little older and a little more practical that I started looking around and realizing there were no artists in my life, and that, making a career as an artist was probably as unlikely as making it as a rock star. So I had these voices in my head saying, okay, Sarah, get real. Like, what are you actually going to do with your life?
Yeah.
I ended up going to school, to specifically a liberal arts school, so that that had a killer painting program, so I could get that burning love of art out of my system, and then go on to become a therapist or go to grad school and be something else, but have like a foundation for that. But the whole way through, my mom has always been like so ridiculously supportive of me as an artist, and I would call her freaking out all the time and be like, Mom, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And she'd be like, Sarah, art is like all you've ever been made. Like you were made to be an artist. Like it's what you're meant to do. You're just gonna do it. We're gonna figure it out. And so that support really propelled me, and I graduated from Boston University with a painting major, and I moved home with my mom, and we threw a graduation party that was really just a giant art show.
Yes.
It was like my first big art event that we presented my graduation party, and we sold some pieces, and then just like went so hard. And that was 13 years ago. I have never gotten a job. I've never, I've been a full-time artist ever since. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Insane. I just love how supportive your mom was with you and just kind of let you guide your way.
Yeah. So it's so huge. I'm so grateful to her. And like, she's been, if you ever come to any of my art events, she's there, like talking cat, cheering me on. She's really such a huge support, and still a big part of my day to day.
Amazing. And did you grow up in San Diego?
I did. So when all my friends were moving to New York to make it as an artist, I think that's where my practical side kind of, and I was like, I'm going to move home to San Diego.
Yeah.
And live with my mom for a few years so I can save up some money and, do that whole thing. And it's been just like such a beautiful launch pad for me, it was the best. So I feel incredibly forever grateful that my mom was the black sheep in her family and left Michigan in the 70s in the VW van with her non-Jewish boyfriend.
Oh my gosh.
So I didn't have to. So it's just like an easy place to be from and to come back to.
Amazing. I'm looking at the art behind you and of course on all the pieces that you do on your floor and everything. What's the inspiration with the water?
Well, kind of dovetails into the story we were just talking about, but when I came back to San Diego to try and pursue art in a real way as a career, water just naturally started making its way into my work. I think I've always been really into psychology. Like I said, I've always been really into reflections, like both from a technical artistic perspective, because they're so freaking beautiful.
Yeah.
And if you're painting like bright sun and water underneath the person, the way that the light shines on the skin, it's like glistening, and then all the colors get reflected, and that just like visually really gets me excited. But the meaning of the water in my work has sort of shifted a little bit through the years. So when I first moved home to San Diego and it first started like creeping up in my work, it was more about like a mindful environment. I was really into this idea because I moved around a lot, like, and noticed that people acted so differently in different environments and people dressed so differently. And it was like, I was really fascinated by this idea of how do our environments reflect on us. And so I made this series of paintings of like colored lights reflecting on human skin to try and show that idea. Then when I came back to San Diego, I was like, what's the way that I can show like more the internal space of a person rather than like how an environment, like a city, shines on a person.
Yeah.
And I felt like water was the perfect way to do that. So if I could have like a figure mindfully floating through water, it was sort of just like a beautiful setting to express what was going on for that person internally. And then in 2016, I created this series that I called Glow with the Flow.
Mm.
And it was about, again, with reflectivity, it was about how we have this reflective superpower to like reflect back what doesn't serve us and let in what does. So in that series, that's what the one on my, I'm getting really directionally confused. The Dwarf and Donut flow is from that series. So it's like women in these like shiny plasticky pool floats wearing this like shiny super reflective clothing and elements and stuff like that, and they're just like reflecting back negativity and letting in the goodness. And then in 2019 I created this series, which is called the Trust series, and it's all about women who trust themselves to pursue unconventional paths. So in that series, the women are actually elevated on top of the water, seeing themselves reflected, which to me represents like really seeing themselves, knowing themselves, and from that place being able to move forward from a place of intuition and instinct and self-trust.
Amazing.
So water is just about a lot of things. And it develops throughout the years is a very long answer for that.
Yeah. And what's your sign? Do you are you really like, I'm like, there's gotta be like some water going on here.
I would have to tell you.
Amazing. And I noticed that you have water on the floor. Can you tell me what it's like walking on water as your floor?
It's like Jesus. Yeah, I love it. I'm so especially excited to be chatting on an interior design podcast because designing interiors specifically as extensions of my art has become such a huge part of like my artistic development and journey over the past few years. This is I just moved into this home in at the very end of 2019.
Okay.
It was the first time that I actually had my art studio inside of my house. For the past decade or so, I'd been in these like warehouse style, really industrial art studios. And it like totally transformed like my whole relationship to spaces. And I went crazy decorating this particular space as an extension of my painting. So like, yes, there's water on the floor, all the curtains are ombre rainbow, like everything is custom in rainbow and paints are like, I wish I could give you a whole, but I'll send you a video.
Yeah, send me a video. And plus you're having a whole show, like sharing all this, right? Is that what is coming up?
Yeah. So, okay. So the journey started with the house that I'm in now.
Okay.
I like cyber spaces. So that's when I'm like designing interior spaces as extensions of my art. And since this home project happened, I designed the whole house. It got a lot of attention and press, and it like really blew up in a way that was really surprising and delightful for me. And then from there, I started getting client projects. So last summer, designing a 4-bedroom Airbnb with like an exterior mural, painted all the walls inside, went crazy. We had a team of 4 people wearing these jumpsuits and like blasting Beyonce, being so hot, like you do at Alice Springs in the summer. And now I am about to like embark on my 3rd project, like sort of in this vein. So I just completed this giant mural in Hillcrest, San Diego, right on Robinson Avenue. And I'm obsessed with it. It's like, I love it. I love this mural so much. I just posted about it on Instagram. So check out my Instagram if you want to see what it looks like.
Yeah.
And the apartment complex, or the company that hired me, they're called SNF Properties. This is the 2nd time I've created a large scale mural for them. And they know I'm into design as well. And so what's really special about this particular mural project is they really trusted me in my design aesthetic to make decisions to sort of like integrate the mural throughout the entire building. So I did all of the Dunn Edwards paint colors on the exterior of the mural. I selected like this like sherbet palette of like really fun summery accent colors that dry with the mural to go on all the doors and the awnings.
Oh my gosh.
And how I am letting me have like full reign of one of the living rooms inside of this apartment complex.
No way.
So it's like an artistic dream because the mural, I'm so stoked. The mural is like these 2 20-foot paintings of women. One of them is wearing stripes and painting polka dots. And one of them is wearing polka dots and painting stripes. And it's all just like with rainbow light and just like Technicolor. Like they look like
Wow.
they're glowing. And so what my inspiration for this living room is like what I imagine that these characters in my mural are painting inside of the building. So, I mean, you can imagine it's going to
So
be
rad.
a lot of stripes, a lot of polka dots, a lot of rainbows. And I'm wearing this jumpsuit right now because the second we finish this interview, I'm going to start installing the space.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So excited. And so on July 19th, we are hosting a mural reveal party and like community mixer. So please come. We're going to have non-alcoholic cocktails, my improv cocktails, food,
Nice.
drinks, DJ. And that's going to be at Duplet at 1239 Robinson Avenue from
Perfect.
5 to 4.
Yeah, we'll share all of that so that you all can join and take a peek at these beautiful murals. And is the inside going to be done, or is it just really the outside that we're enjoying?
No. Yes. So this party is going to be the only opportunity for the public to come see this living room that I'm designing. So yeah, I mean, I really got to get to work. Everything's around right now, and then we have 1 week to just like go ham, install this thing, and then we've got the party to celebrate it all. So really, yeah.
And are they going to Airbnb this space out, or is somebody living there now, or like, are they renting it out? Like, what's the thing?
Oh, wild! Because this is like an apartment group that are renting these as like long-term rentals. So somebody will have the opportunity to be like, yes, I want that to be my rental with a rainbow chandelier and crazy wallpaper and like paint what? But somebody will have the option to rent it as like the artist who painted the mural has designed.
Oh my gosh.
Like who does that, you know? And I was talking to Monique, the person in charge at Definite Properties, and I was like showing her my mock-ups, and she's like, you can't do wallpaper. I was like, okay, well, here's what it looks like without wallpaper. And she was like, we're doing wallpaper. So they're really like letting me do a lot more than any rental usually lets people.
Right?
Do.
Like usually it's like, okay, no, our walls are white, and if you paint anything, you better paint it back.
Yeah. I mean, just goes to show like how cool they are to work with, and how much they like trust and support the artistic process of like, paint this mural, paint all the walls, and then sure, go ahead and paint what you want to do. Why not?
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. How freaking exciting. So I'm super stoked to see like where you go with this design aspect. I just see you blossoming and blooming, and you've really created this niche and persona, and I just absolutely love that we're like basically stepping into a painting and living in a painting.
You know, me too. And you know what? I hate to say this on an interior design podcast, but like before I'm moving into this home, like I just didn't. I thought about art and design as such separate things. I think it was because like I didn't design my home with that much intention. I didn't paint my paintings in my home, and like moving into this space and really combining everything and like it made me think about art and design so much more holistically, and realizing that like it doesn't make sense actually for the artwork to end like at the edges of the canvas.
Absolutely.
And everything is the same and everything is integrated, and it's been such a like creative awakening for me, and now like having the opportunity to work with clients and like integrate that concept into my projects where I'm like, I'll make a giant paint mural for you outside, but also like let's design the lobby of your hotel. Like why shouldn't everything be an extension of the art? Like if it's all about like making an impact on conversation and like inspiring how people feel in a space, it's like it's all the same thing, right?
Absolutely.
And I love that about your podcast, that you you have interior designers, but you also spotlight artists. So can you tell me about like what is your inspiration for making that decision? Obviously, like everything you're doing is not intentional.
Yeah. So for me, with design, I used to work at a showroom down in Little Italy where Urban Wood is now. It used to be called Mixture. And I was there for, I think, like 4 years. And we designed with a lot of modern European lines, but all the art in that showroom were local artists. So even though we had European lines that we're working with, we were connecting with these local artists. So I would be in there every day, checking in art from the artists. We'd hang the art, we'd do shows, we do all these things. And so I really had an appreciation for the artists that were coming in, and they would tell me the stories of their art and what they were doing. And they were creating just really cool spaces and other art studios. I don't know if you remember or know Matt Devine, but he was a sculptor here in San Diego, and he's now, him and Morgan, his wife, and daughter moved up to Oregon. But when they were here, Matt would bring in his art, and he was telling me that he was creating Glass House, and it was that art studio down in the barrio. And I was just like, oh my God. And he would have these parties, and his wife and I would go down there, and we would make a mess of his studio with, like, we would glue feathers and glitter and all kinds of stuff. And he'd come in and just be like, what the hell is happening? It was like an explosion. So he built us a studio within the Glass House so that we can, like, have our space. But it was people like him that they were creating these spaces and just hearing these stories. So I've always been connected with the artist. And when I finally went off on my own, I've always been spiritual, connected with that realm, always into like tarot and all these things. And when I went off on my own, I was like, oh my God, I can go back and take time to learn feng shui. Then I learned about Reiki. Then I was like, I got to be a Reiki master. And then I was like doing all these things. So for me, when I design, I'm incorporating all of it. And art has such a huge impact on the way we feel, what we see every day, just the symbolism and the way everything is so connected. And when I created the podcast, initially it was for people that were designing their own homes, or just to kind of give other designers like feng shui tips and that kind of thing. And then it evolved into the new podcast, the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. And I created a membership to also assist designers. And what was really important for me to connect with artists that were here locally, to support that ecosystem and to be able to offer our clients original art versus like picking something, off the shelf at a West Elm or Target or whatever, to support local, and also like the stories that we have. And when a client connects with an artist or connects with a piece or hears the story behind a piece, there's always a connection. I just think it's just the most magical thing. And I'm really intentional about the art that is placed in a home. So yes, it was always just kind of this thing that I've always kind of just been in. And like, yeah, I just have so many beautiful artist friends, and I'm like, we need to share you with like everybody. And all these designers need to know who is in our backyard. Like, I feel like too, there's no one place for designers to like know about art or this or that. And that's also why we created Art Scene SD, was to have a central place to find out what galleries had openings, what artists were doing what. So it kind of all is meshing together at this point. Yeah. And then we're creating and creating like kind of like a branch off of this for Art Scene, like having the Art Scene podcast that features all the artist episodes that I've done. Like, this whole month has just been sort of an art month for me. Usually I do like one a month, but I'm just like, this is all working out. And what's really funny with you, Sarah, is our episode that just aired today, which is, what is today? The 11th. We had Jen Marie on today, and I found her through my friend Michelle. And Michelle and Jen Marie, I don't know if you know the story, they met in the parking lot of your show.
Okay, so I was like in preparation for this podcast, I just like played the latest episode this morning and was like listening. I'm like, oh, I know Jen Marie, and she's like, oh, and then shout out to Sarah Stieber. And I was like, wait, what? Okay. And then also Michelle McAllister is the person who referred me to FNF Properties for these mural contracts. So full circle all around. I love the synchronicity of everything.
Yeah. And you and I just connected, was it a week
Yeah.
ago? A couple weeks ago.
Like,
I don't remember.
yeah, like a week ago, I think. Feels like we've known each other forever.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a week ago.
Yeah. So they're like, I'm like, oh, you need to come on the podcast. Here we are.
Amazing. And the gallery that Jen Marie and Michelle were at, where they met and that let them see your podcast.
Yeah.
It was that, like, it sounds very aligned with your mission for this podcast. So it was intentionally, like, I called it Stieber Spring Showroom instead of a gallery. And it's a living room inspired art gallery.
Oh
I partnered with all of these brands and makers that like make this really rad and unique custom and colorful furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And then I collaborated with Don Edwards Paint Company. I painted all the walls. Like for just a like 1 month gallery, I went insane designing this space as an extension of my art with that same idea in mind of like, right, if you walk into a white walled gallery, like the art is just, it's just doesn't have a soul and an extension. It's like this art will gonna end up in your home where it's gonna like, and want you to be able to experience it in like an intentional space. So yeah, I feel like we have a lot in common with what we're interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just love all the synchronicities, and I've gone to several of your shows like in the past, but we've never actually like really got to connect and talk. So.
Was that?
So awesome. Yeah, I absolutely love it. So yeah, I love that you asked about that, because yeah, I mean that's part of like everything that I do. It is intentional, especially with design, like every little aspect that we're sourcing. And I mean you're designing space, so it's like every little part and piece has to have a meaning or an intention, or nothing is done by accident, I should say. So
yeah, it's cool too. Like I don't know how we should get into this, but like that you light a candle before having a conversation with somebody, like to create that space to slow down. Like I feel like in so many interviews, I'm just like buzzy and like I'm jiving from like enthusiasm and like
of course
buzzy energy. But it's really cool that you're like creating a space for the people you're chatting with, where you're like integrating that intentionality that you care about in your design into like the conversation and setting it up in that way. Just props. Love it.
You're so sweet. Yeah, so for me too, like I don't do so many anymore, but I would do a lot of moon circle ceremonies, tarot ceremonies. So for me, it's always kind of setting the space or setting the stage for what we're about to enter. I spaces are so sacred, so it's like creating a container to hold the intention. Same thing when I'm working, with a client or whatever, even if I'm not like literally lighting a candle with them as we go into a meeting, I'm being intentional about, what's the agenda for this meeting? What's the vibe or the feeling that we're getting into? Like, how can I hold space for them? Because during construction, it's super, super crazy, chaotic. There's so many people in and out, so many energies happening. And a lot of times I have to hold that space for the client to get them to be focused and to feel comfortable, because their lives are literally, torn upside down. They don't know what's going on. There's stuff in the air. There's just, so.
Yeah, and right. It's like their home is like being put up in shambles, and they're making all these decisions. They don't see them coming to fruition yet. So no, it is a really, I haven't really thought through what an unnerving time I bet that can be for your client. Great. That's holding space for them.
Yeah. And then my favorite part, of course, is coming in at the end and being able to place art and all the accessories and get everything zhuzhed up and vibing. And, art just plays such a huge role with everything. I mean, it's like, I always tell them, the piece of art that is sitting in front of your bed, it's the most important piece. It's the first thing you see in the morning. It's the last thing you see before you close your eyes. So being really intentional about like, what is that piece, and to have people like you that can create such magic and that can hold the energy or the intention of something is really incredible. Do you ever do commission work, or do you work with designers, or have you kind of gone down that path? And if so, what does that look like?
I love that you said that because during the gallery and like occasionally we'll do home shows. We'll offer home shows with the art, so I get the opportunity to go into people's homes once they've been designed and everything, and try out different paintings and talk through the meaning. And it's always like people always cry. Like it's always such a meaningful experience. Find the painting that means something that is going to be part of their home, part of their lives. And then to answer your question, I do. The commissions question can be kind of tricky for me because
very tricky.
I tend to not. I like everybody wants a painting of themselves and their dogs, and like I don't tend to have the capacity to take on like that sort of just like custom portrait of like, will you paint me in your style? Like my paintings have so much intentionality behind them. I curate an entire like concept that's like very meaningful to me and hopefully personally meaningful. I curate entire photo shoots that are like really productions. So there's just like so much for it. So like that said, I will create custom work if it feels like very in alignment with my work. So it's like, I guess the question for me is like, if I create this painting with and for you, one, will it feel like a collaboration? And two, if I throw it in my portfolio, will it be undistinguishable from the rest of my body of work? Because like I have just, such high expectations of my work, and I want everything to be the quality that the work that I offer is. So I love to work with people who have, like, for example, I had painting. I have a series of paintings made with tape that are like so rad and shiny,
so
and
cool.
Like they're completely made out of tape. They're like, there's no paint in them. And this collector of mine who I have a relationship with was like, hey, so like I had this one that was like a girl doing a back bend wearing like a rainbow tutu. And they were like, wait, we saw that, but like there's something about cartwheels that are so meaningful in my life and in our relationship. It's like it has to do with like our life philosophy, all this stuff.
Wow.
So when we were in their home in Del Mar, we found this like 10-foot wall. And I was like, wait, can we do it there?
Wow.
So he commissioned me to create a 5-foot wide but 7-foot tall painting made completely out of tape that's like, this tape is glittery and holographic. So like it changes like walking through the space. It completely transformed the space. And it's like that needed to be a commission because I'm not like, I don't just like have the capacity to be making a 7-foot by 5-foot tape painting of a cartwheel. And like, but it's like, it felt so integrated into what I care about. And it's like, it's everything. I have to send you a picture of it. It's like the wrap. It's one of my favorite things I've ever made. So like that kind of thing. Yes. I've done, commissions for the Marriott Hotel in downtown San Diego. The lobby centerpiece behind the front desk is mine. The Marriott in Oceanside, mural commissions, of course. So basically it's like, yes, I do commission. I do work with designers. I do work with like art consultants for hospitality and things like that. It's just like needs to fit into those parameters.
Yeah. No, and I love that you set that boundary. I think that's so important, and it's really in alignment with who you are. And I think also for designers to hear that from you and from other professionals, that this is how you do that and this is how you stay true to who you are. Because as designers, a lot of times we bend over, we don't have boundaries, we're like all over the place. So it's like seeing somebody do it is really inspirational, and it also gives permission as the designer to also set those boundaries and to also be in that space that you hold. So I just wanted to commend you for being able to express that, and I think it's huge. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think too, a client, if they choose to like spend their hard-earned money to commission you to create a work of art, it's because they resonate with what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it's not a fit, or if you're doing something that like it just has like chock full with like too much personal symbolism that's not going to like sing artistically, then you're doing a disservice to that client by taking on projects that are in alignment with what you feel would be like the most badass work of art that you could possibly create.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love that. And every time I talk to an artist or even somebody that's not in the design field, that is out on their own, we have so much to learn from each other just in the way that we do business and how we hold ourselves accountable. So I'm just like, this is just a beautiful golden nugget that I feel like you just gave to us. So there's always something. what else is going on? What other events or shows do you have coming up for this year?
Well, I'm in a really exciting place right now because like since January of this year, I was planning for this Stieber Spring showroom, and that just like closed. It overlapped actually a little bit with my mural. So I was like painting this mural, and then like my team was closing down the gallery, and I was like in two places at once, which was incredibly exciting. And now it's like a little. I mean, I'd say it's an exhale, even though like we're installed. We can have a show next week. This is like as chill as it gets, you know? And it's been in like, I put like all the big meetings for what's next kind of off until the end, until the mural is over. So every day has been like 5 meetings about new cyber spaces projects, a pop-up gallery I want to do in Palm Springs, giant new murals, like all over San Diego. So there's like so much possibility in the air right now. And I'm just like putting the pieces together, like I'm having a meeting with leaders today about possible another local show that I'm going to do before the end of the year. But like, so there's a lot happening, and I just need to sort of like wait until the dust settles and get those contracts moving. And then I'll be able to like really say with, definitive next. But if you are listening to this and curious, we always do so many fun parties and events and things and activations. And there's a section on my website, which is sarahstieber.com/events. And we always keep that updated with what's next. That's also where you can go now and RSVP for the event on the 19th, which I believe, listening to this the day it comes out, I believe that is tomorrow. So if you're please join me tomorrow. I would love to meet you.
Amazing. Yes, please do. And where else can we can find you on Instagram? What's your Insta?
Yes, Instagram at Sarah Stieber. It's spelled not how you think it is. So check out the show notes.
Yes.
And then I'm on all the things. Okay. And then but yeah, I'm most active on Instagram. Okay. You can like see me dabbling in TikTok and YouTube and Facebook, but Instagram is my main home.
Perfect.
And then I've got like stuff on my website always being updated, but it's all linked through Instagram.
Love it. Love it. So we'll share all of that. And the last question I always like to kind of connect with everyone on is, what are you doing to keep you grounded? How are you staying centered? Is there any practices or things that you're enjoying at the moment to kind of anchor you in?
Yeah. So my like rock has been for the last, 15 years is like a pretty regular yoga practice. So I practice yoga all the time. I think it's really, as an artist, it's just like making art is like, I think people who aren't artists might like have this romantic idea of making art as being like just inspiration all the time, like just spark. And it's like, no, girl, like it is work and it's consistency. Sometimes it can be boring and sometimes you have to force yourself. So it really is a practice, and then sometimes you'll find those moments of like sparky inspiration and like it's worth it, but a practice like yoga that helps me to like breathe and listen to myself and stay in uncomfortable poses. I think that really translates beautifully into a like more painting practice. And then I've also gotten into just like journaling, especially this year, a big year in my art business, because I just took on a full employee for the first time in January. And I'm like, I'm saying no to all vacations. I'm like really putting my head down and trying to build something like beautiful and bigger and more sustainable and like being able to support like all of my epic dreams. So with that comes just like a lot that I need to like process out and write my way through. So I try to write 3 pages a day. I fail miserably, but when I do get into the swing of it, I find that is like incredibly informative and grounding.
Beautiful. Oh, I love it.
Oh, and walking.
Yes, walking. That's one of my things. No. Yeah, walking is huge. For me, it's like my morning walk. I try to get into an afternoon walk as well. I feel like that kind of clears the head. I just, am in there all the time. But yeah, so beautiful. Oh, I'm so glad that you were able to come on and that we got to meet and connect and share all the things. We will definitely be following you, connecting with you, and I can't wait to see your show. So,
Oh,
okay, thank
thank you
you.
so
Of
much. This
course.
has been such a wonderful conversation. Thank you for holding the space and sharing so much about your journey too. It's really fun to learn about more about you. And next time you come to my art show,
Yes.
let's glitter art back.
Yes, absolutely. It'll be amazing. You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge and leave us a 5-star review that helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events. So everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and Kinseth Thibodeau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.